Welcome. This is a little tutorial on using the leather dyes to create a watercolour effect. It's just another method of surface decorating your leather projects. So we're using the Eco White leather because it provides a really great background for painting onto, but you can do this on natural veg tan, on any of your leathers that have got a light kind of colour base to them, and as long as they're what we call aniline, so that means they'll take water. So if you wanted to test that, you can put a little drop of water onto the top surface of the leather and see whether it sits there, to see whether there's any finish that's going to impair you from painting onto it. So for this you want a really aniline leather to get this kind of lovely watercolour effect onto it. So this is a blossom that we'll use as the tutorial idea to paint. And to do this, we're just going to use the water-based leather stains, or you could also use any water-based leather dye. The point is you need to be able to dilute it, and you need to dilute it really quite a lot. So what you want to have to hand is your paintbrushes. I have a fine detail paintbrush, a medium and a wide brush, and I have the fuchsia pink Identity water-based stain, and I have the dark red, the camel and chestnut for the colours that I'm going to use for this tutorial. And you'll want a pot of water, plenty of water to hand. And I've got a little tray here or something to mix in. This is just something that like yogurt pots come standing in, very useful to keep for a paint mixing tray, or a proper paint palette is handy. So this is actually a clean tray. It might not look it because it's got kind of some remnants of the colours, but I'll just use that to guide me. So I'm just going to give the dye a good shake, and you really hardly need anything for this, so I'm just going to pour a little bit into the tray. So this is my pink, this is my dark red, and then my chestnut I'm going to put at the end here. So the chestnut is kind of a reddy brown, so it's quite good for the stems, and it also gives you kind of a tone to go in with the pink, and just don't drip anything. And then I'm using the camel, which is quite a light brown, so it works quite well for the watercolour effect. So just put a few little drops in each of those. So I've got my browns at this end and my pink and red here, and then in my middle one I'm going to pour some water into both of those two, because what I want to get is some differential pink shading. So I'm going to take my thick brush here, and I'm just going to lift out a little bit of the pink, and when I put this into the water here, it's going to really turn the water a pinky colour. So I'm just lifting out a little bit there, and if you get a scrap piece of the leather, you can just kind of put a little bit on and just see how it's coming out. So this pink is lovely, but it's quite a blue pink, so in order to tone it down I'm going to lift out a tiny amount of the red and just pop that into the water mix. So, and really mix it well. So on the brush you've got kind of just the diluted water, and let's try a bit of that. And that's giving me more of a sort of baby pink, more of a pale pink. So I'm just testing out bits of colour on those with the brush, and I think I'm happy with that now. I'm going to keep this one as just the water, so that if I need to thin out or do anything I've got that option. But I think I'm about ready on those. So I'm just going to go to my piece and take my fine brush, and I'm going to pop that into the camel, and I'm going to pick a little tiny bit, I'll do a bit of this bit here, a little tiny bit of the chestnut as well, and just mix those two colours a little bit in my tray. So this should give me a kind of warmish, lightish red brown for my stems. and you want to get it fairly loaded on the brush so that you can get kind of a mark. And we're just going to create a kind of loose framework for the stems to give us a starting point. So I'm just going to go down and do a couple of branches just to give us a starting point for our blossoms. So just something like that. We'll come back to those in a moment. And then we're going to take the wide brush and go to the water, and just going to think about where your blossoms. So you want your smaller ones towards the ends of the branches, and nearer to you here you want your bigger kind of clumps. So let's do a little bit of a blossom flower here. And what you can do with this is you're literally painting with this really sort of diluted dye pigment, and it will dry a bit lighter even than you painted, so just bear that in mind. So I'm just going to do a little blossom here, and what I can do is just tip the end of my paintbrush in just to get a more feathered, lighter approach for the ends of those petals, just to really make them very, very delicate as they dry. Let's put another hanging over here. And if you push the water back towards the end where it's joining the stem, then you'll get a deeper concentration of colour. So you have a little moment of time to kind of work on the leather and push that paint back a bit. And we'll have something coming up here. Let's have a kind of half open one here. Just like that sort of shape. And another bigger one here. It can help to have a little photo or something in front of you to work towards, so you're kind of looking at shapes and patterns of the flowers. I'm going to take it a little bit over the branch there. And then as we go up here, they're going to get a little smaller, so we're just going to do more sort of bud ones at the ends here. Again, pushing that water down to thicken at that base. A little bit of a small one, but that's just opening. Let's put a slightly bigger one here in this space. And some little buds coming off the bottom here. Another little one in here. This is all using that light kind of colour, and just thinking about the placement at the moment. We're going to go and put some emphasis, so just take a little look and see whether you want to go a little bit, while you've got a little bit on the brush still, take that in. And then we're going to go to a slightly deeper tone to do the sort of centres. So I'm going to dip my water, brush in my pinky water again, and then a little bit into the pink, and pick up a tiny bit of the red, and just make sure it's quite fine still. So just before I put it on, I'm just going to test out. Okay, it's coming out a bit red, so let's put a bit more water to it. And a tiny bit more pink. That's better. Okay, so when you're happy, you can use that then to go into these bottom ends of the blossoms. Just picks out a little bit of colour. You're just wanting the bottom tips of where they're going to come nearest to the branch to be this deeper tone, and where the blossoms are open you can go a little bit further into the inside. If any of it goes on and you're not happy, just go back to your water and spread it a little. So for this one that's open here, I'm going to kind of just do some little darker stars while I've got the end of my brush going, just so that centre's a little deeper. And then I'm going to just change to my slightly finer brush to pick out some sharper detail on the open one, so sort of more little veins, which I will then smooth out a bit. Maybe a few little tiny dots. Okay, look, they have these little dots in the centre. A few little dots. And elsewhere, and use open ones. Just down the bits where you might see from being open. So then just kind of have a little look at it and play. Don't overwork it. And it doesn't hurt to always go back and just really with the water on the brush just to sort of lighten it. You're going for this really delicate light look, and it will dry lighter, so you want to kind of keep it really soft. I think that's probably enough. So I'm now going to go back to my very fine small brush and go to my browns and my chestnuts, and again just mixing up a little bit of a tone between those two. And I'm going to join these little flowers now, so make sure they've got little attachments. Like so. Okay, and if I need to, I think I'm going to slightly thicken the branch at this bottom end where it would be coming towards the tree. Just take that down a little. And then I'm going to just put that in some water, rinse that off a little, and just go to the camel for the lighter colour. And load that up. And then I want to do a few little stems just coming off, but very lightly. So just some delicate little twiggy branches coming off. I might put some more blossom on those and see how it all looks in a second. Okay, and then again with that camel and a little bit of water on the end, you're just going to go to where those joins are at the base of those blossoms. So just a tiny bit of brown in that little base at the bottom there, just to show where they're attached. Don't go over too much your deeper colour, you're just literally just attaching them onto the branch at the bottom. And there we go.